It can be hard, can't it? You know, finding the time to sort of read and write and amongst everything else.
Yeah.
But, you know, even if you can just, you know, pick a couple up a month and, you know, like, or, you know, one or two, anything, just keep it current, you know, yeah, get it from the, you know, the top tens in the genre, or yeah, like you say, find out what's working and keep it current so that you can build on. I mean, you don't want to build on something that was written like 20 years ago, because we've probably already moved on within the genre.
Yeah. And you know, also I think Peter's hitting on a very important thing. What's working in that top 10 list? If the book shows up on the top 10 list one week and then it is gone, that book's not working. You know, they did good marketing, but it's not working. What's the book that stayed in the top 10 for 30 weeks? You know, what's that book? What's the book that people continually are talking about? You know, and if you only have time to read one book per month, then that's the book you grab and you try to figure out and examine it and what's making the story work.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I want to mention one thing, because you're right. You know, 20 years ago, we don't want to hit that, but there is something that happens in our society, and it's a 50-year cycle. David Farland, who's a fantastic author, New York Times bestseller. I've taken a few of his classes. He's got a book called, I believe it's $1 Million Plots. And because he worked in Hollywood for a long time, green lighting projects and saying, yes, this story is going to sell. This story will not sell. And one of the things he talks about are these 50-year cycles. And so what you would do is we have this idea, you know, like Treasure Island was written. Well, 50 years later, another pirate movie was written, or another pirate book was written. And 50 years later, then we ended up having the Johnny Depp pirate movies. Pirates of the Caribbean came out. And so we have this idea.
He doesn't know them. What was I calling him?
What was that? What is that Johnny fellow? What was his name? But seriously, though, like it's a cycle that happens. So like right now, I did this before I came on the show. I took a look back at 50 years ago. And one of the big things were spy books. James Bond was just exploding at that time. Exploding. And pun intended there. But that's something that you can see today. Spy stories are hot right now. People have a big interest in it. We're diving back into the Cold War. I just watched Bridge of Spies the other day with Tom Hanks. It was a fantastic story. So take a look at what happened 50 years ago. What was popular 50 years ago if you're looking for something to compare it to, and will it work today?
Yeah, that's a really great point, and it got me thinking. So you know the film Stormbreaker, is it? Where he's like a young, he's kind of like James Bond. He's a spy, or his dad was a spy, and so basically it's that kind of film brought into like the modern day, and the new idea is that he's a teenager. So, you know, someone's basically thought, well, how would this go if it was a teenager?
Uh-huh.
And I think that's just great. You know, it's an okay film, but so yeah, like you say, taking something from like that long ago and being like, okay, well, what if it was different in this way? Mm-hmm. And I think, I may be wrong, I think Pierce Brosnan may have a cameo in that film, which if he does is kind of like a great kind of like nod to the origins of it.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, there's been I forget the name now, but there was another one recently, same kind of premise where it had Colin Firth in it, on Her Majesty's Service or something like that, and it was really good. And again, it was kind of like, you know, what if the spy was like an adolescent? Mm-hmm. So certainly, I think that's interesting that they're coming around, but they're also changing.
Yeah, and exactly that you've got to bring something original to the story, but it gives you the familiar feeling to dive back into. And so spy novels are just one thing, you know, like just take a look at what some of the other stuff is. You know, and we're talking movies here with the spy things, but I think we could jump out to John LeClair and I can't think of the other guy right off the top of my head, but they're producing a lot of great spy novels right now. And you just have to look at what's worked in the past, far enough ago that it's become fresh again, and what's currently working. Because one thing you probably don't want to do is run down. You probably don't want to be writing sparkly vampire stories right now. You probably missed that boat. But
that signals down the drain.
Yeah. And you might want to stay away from young adult dystopian, because I mean we're probably about to the point where we've played that out. That there's been so much of that happening. Yeah. So you do have to be careful on which genres that you're trying to write in. But if you can bring a totally unique voice to your idea, maybe it'll work. So it's just something you got to think about, because you don't want to spend all your time wasted. You don't want to waste all of your time.
Yeah, I've just sort of looked up that film was called. It was a film, albeit Kingsman. It's worth checking out. It's a really good sort of like original take on like the spy genre. It's a film, but it was a good example of that.
But actually, that one it was a comic book before it became a film. So it's a graphic novel, and I really enjoy the film as well. It's a fantastic idea. Plus nods to the old James Bond films, with with the really crazy villains, and at this point I should be doing I'm going to torture you for a while or something like that, and then they're like, no, it's not this type of movie. So that kind of stuff was fun, the nodding to the old, but then changing it to something new and original. So that is a really good one. So definitely take a look at both of them.
Thank you for listening, and come back next week for more. Please visit thebookeditorshow.com for show notes, links to guests, books and extras, and for information on how to be a guest on the show.